You won't believe happened to me that summer out in the Wild West. I was just a lone cowboy, riding through endless deserts and dusty trails, thinking I'd seen it all. But then, out of nowhere, I stumbled upon a little girl, no older than 8 or 9, wandering all alone by the side of a dried-up creek. She looked scared, her clothes tattered, and she didn't even have a horse with her. I'll never forget the way her big, brown eyes looked at me, like she had been searching for someone, anyone, for days. I didn't know where she had come from or what she had gone through, but something inside me just told me I couldn't leave her there. Was I wrong for taking her in? Tell me if you would have done the same thing, because looking back, it completely changed my life. I found her near sunset, when the sky turned that burnt orange, color that makes the desert look alive in a way you can't describe. She was sitting on a rock, hugging her knees, shivering even though it wasn't that cold. I approached slowly, keeping my hands visible, because I didn't want to scare her away. "Hey there," I said, my voice gentle but steady. "Are you lost?" She didn't answer at first. I could see the dirt on her face, the tears that had dried and streaked her cheeks. Finally she whispered, "I don't know where my mom is." My heart sank. I had grown up on my own in the West, and I knew how cruel it could be for a little girl to be alone out here. "Don't worry," I told her. "You're safe now. I'll take care of you." I led her back to my small camp. It wasn't much, a tent, a few horses, and supplies I carried, but it was the safest place I had to offer. She didn't say much, just followed me silently, glancing around like she was afraid something might grab her. That night I gave her a warm meal, and for the first time she smiled. It was faint, almost ghost-like, but it was there. She told me her name was Little Feather. I asked her if she remembered where her family was, and she shook her head. All she knew was that she had been separated from her mother, who she said always had to be somewhere else. I couldn't help but wonder what kind of life she had been living to end up alone in the middle of the desert. The days passed, and Little Feather slowly started to trust me. She rode on my horse sometimes, and I taught her how to track animals, how to find water, how to survive out here without getting hurt. I felt a strange responsibility toward her, almost like I was the father I never had. But one day, everything changed. A woman appeared at the edge of the canyon while I was setting up camp. She was tall, elegant in a way that made her look completely out of place in the wilderness. Her clothes were clean, her hair perfectly styled, and her eyes, oh, those eyes, locked onto Little Feather instantly. "That's my daughter," she said, her voice firm but oddly gentle. "You've been keeping her from me." I froze. I didn't know what to say. I'd thought she was abandoned, but apparently she had a mother who was very much alive. The woman's name was Isabella. She told me she had been searching for Little Feather for months. She had her reasons for leaving her alone, reasons that made sense only to her, she said, but seeing her now, I didn't know if I could trust her. There was something in her demeanor that was commanding, almost magnetic. I felt a strange pull toward her. Even though I knew I shouldn't, I wanted to hand Little Feather over. But every time I looked at her, I saw fear and confusion, and I couldn't just let her go without knowing she would be safe. "I've taken care of her," I told Isabella. "She's been with me, and she's safe." She looked at me, her eyes narrowing slightly, and I realized she wasn't used to being told no. Over the next few days, Isabella stayed near the camp, trying to reconnect with Little Feather. And here's the thing, I couldn't help but notice how much she reminded me of the life I'd never had. She was strong, clever, and yet there was a softness in her that made you want to follow her anywhere. It was confusing because my life had been solitary for so long. I'd never let anyone in, never cared about settling down, and yet suddenly I found myself wanting to impress her, to protect her, to be part of her world. And Little Feather? She was torn between the two of us. She'd cling to me at night and then run into her mother's arms in the day. It was heartbreaking to watch, but also somehow beautiful. Now here's where things get complicated. Isabella started asking me to leave, insisting that she could take care of Little Feather on her own. But I couldn't, not just because I had grown attached to her, but because I had started feeling something I didn't want to admit. I was falling for Isabella, and I knew it was dangerous. She was the kind of woman who could make you lose your mind, who could change the course of your life without even trying. And yet, she was also the reason I had discovered a side of me I didn't know existed. The side that cared, the side that could love, the side that could fight for someone else's happiness. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have walked away, letting a mother reunite with her daughter, or would you have stayed, risking everything for the people you had grown to love? Because looking back, that was the hardest decision I'd ever had to make. The turning point came one night when a sandstorm rolled in. I'd just finished securing the horses when I heard Little Feather crying. She had wandered off in the storm, trying to find Isabella, and I ran after her, heart pounding, barely seeing through the blinding wind. I found her clinging to a rock, soaked and terrified. I scooped her up and held her close, whispering that she was safe. And then Isabella appeared, fighting against the storm, trying to reach us. In that moment, everything came to a head. I had to decide, would I hand her over or would I keep her? I realized then that it wasn't about me or even about Isabella. It was about Little Feather and what was best for her. I let Isabella take Little Feather that night. I couldn't explain why, but something told me it was the right thing. And when I watched them disappear into the storm, I felt a strange emptiness, but also relief. Isabella turned back to me, her hair plastered to her face, her eyes softening for the first time. She smiled, a real smile, and said, "Thank you for keeping her safe." That one sentence changed everything. Over the next weeks, we stayed in touch, and slowly, a bond grew between us that I had never imagined possible. We started traveling together, helping Little Feather reconnect with her world. And in the process, we found our own place in each other's lives. Looking back now, I realize that little girl changed my destiny in ways I couldn't have predicted. She brought me face to face with love, responsibility, and the kind of connection I had always thought was impossible for someone like me. And Isabella? Well, she taught me that sometimes the people who appear suddenly in your life are meant to stay, not just for a moment, but forever. I never imagined that rescuing a lost girl would lead me to the most important relationships of my life, but that's exactly what happened. So if you're watching this, and you've ever felt like life threw you a curveball you weren't ready for, remember this: sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most meaningful connections. Like this video if you were on my side. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I promise every story has a lesson, and I'll see you all in the next story.